At the crossroads of myth and technology, where ancient legends are reborn in the glow of graphics and the heartbeat of sound, God of War is more than just a game. It is a summons. A summons to the forgotten echoes of Mount Olympus, to gods of glory and the battles that shaped the fate of the cosmos. At its heart stands Kratos, a warrior carved by sorrow, driven by vengeance. His journey is not merely a clash with the divine, but an epic of blood, redemption, and the haunting weight of memory. God of War revives the grandeur of Greek mythology, reminding us why these tales once captivated humanity and why they still burn bright in our modern soul. Kratos and the Rebellion of a Mortal. In the world of ancient gods and timeless legends, few names strike with as much raw power as Kratos. And yet, he is not part of the original Greek mythos. You won't find his story in the scrolls of Homer, nor in the whispers of Hesiod. No, Kratos was born from something else, from pixels and prophecy, from rage and tragedy, crafted by modern hands to become a new kind of myth. And in doing so, he became more than a legend. He became a reckoning. Kratos is the embodiment of war, vengeance, and rebellion. A mortal man, scarred by betrayal, driven by loss, who looked up at the gods and chose not to kneel. He is a symbol of defiance in a world ruled by cruel divinity. In classical mythology, there were mortals who challenged the heavens: Prometheus, who stole fire; Sisyphus, who cheated death; Heracles, who bore divine blood. But Kratos is all of them at once, fused into a single force of nature, not born of Olympus, but forged in fire, grief, and blood. Once, he was a respected Spartan general, a warrior whose only goal was victory. But the battlefield is a cruel teacher. Faced with defeat, Kratos made a pact with Ares, the god of war, trading his soul for power, for the strength to crush his enemies. And power he received, but at a cost that would haunt him forever. Under the cruel manipulation of Ares, Kratos slaughtered his own wife and child, the only people who ever truly loved him. Their ashes were bound to his skin, turning it ghostly white, a living reminder of what he had lost. From that moment on, he was no longer just a man. He became the ghost of Sparta. Consumed by guilt, driven by rage, Kratos turned his fury toward the gods themselves. With the blades of chaos, chained weapons gifted by Ares, now turned against their master, he began a relentless journey of vengeance. A journey that would take him across lands, seas, realms of the living and the dead. He tore through monsters, titans, and deities, not out of glory, but to confront the puppeteers of fate and to cut the strings. Kratos is a reimagining of what myth can be. In him, the roles are reversed. The gods are no longer untouchable, and mortals are no longer weak. He is proof that even a man, wounded, broken, enraged, can rise to challenge the very foundations of destiny. Because in the world of God of War, it's not the divine who decide the fate of mortals. It's the mortals who decide the fate of the gods. Zeus, the father, the tyrant, and the king of tragedy. Zeus, the almighty ruler of Olympus. In ancient myth, he was the one who overthrew Cronus, reshaped the heavens, and ruled with divine justice. But his justice was never without shadow. Hidden affairs, harsh punishments, and wrath so fierce it could set the world ablaze. In God of War, Zeus is more than a powerful deity. He is a flawed father. He hides the truth of Kratos' birth. And when he realizes his own son might threaten the fate of Olympus, Zeus chooses to strike first, out of fear, out of coldness. This Zeus is no longer a cosmic anchor of order. He is a tyrant behind a silver beard, the one who sparked a war between father and son, between gods and mortals. The punishment Zeus casts upon Kratos, and the brutal retribution that follows, is the heart of a tragedy that spans generations, a clash between a glorious past and a crumbling future. Athena, goddess of wisdom, or a pawn in the game of war. Athena, in classical myth, is the embodiment of wisdom, justice, and strategic warfare. Born from the forehead of Zeus, motherless, she was the god he trusted most, the light of reason in a realm ruled by divine desire. In God of War, Athena is both guide and deceiver. She offers Kratos strength, paves his path, but hides bitter truths behind a veil of justice. She says it's for the greater good, but whose good is it, really? When Kratos slays Zeus, Athena isn't angry. She is disappointed, because she knows the last god capable of holding balance is gone. And when Kratos refuses to give her the power at the end of God of War 3, her eyes don't burn with rage, they break. Because wisdom without empathy is just a tool, cold, sharp, and blind. Ares, the fallen god, and the price of ambition. Ares, the original god of war, son of Zeus and Hera, stood for chaos, bloodlust, and reckless violence. The opposite of Athena's tactical mind, Ares was pure, uncontrolled fury. In God of War I, he is the one Kratos serves, but also the one who robs Kratos of his humanity. Ares doesn't just kill, he corrupts. He turns Kratos into a monster, then watches coldly as the blood of his wife and child spills by Kratos' own hands. When Kratos kills Ares and takes his place, he does not revel in the throne. He carries it like a burden. Ares was the embodiment of madness in war, and his death, the cost of believing that destruction could swallow everything, even the soul. Hades, the darkness below, and a silent, festering hate. In myth, Hades is the lord of the underworld, not evil, but necessary. He does not meddle in mortal affairs. He exists in silence, balancing the living and the dead. But in God of War 3, Hades is transformed. He becomes vengeful, bitter, violent. When Kratos defeats him, Hades' soul is ripped into the very weapon that slays him. A brutal twist on myth, where the underworld itself turns to war. This Hades is not the quiet warden of the dead. He is a symbol of repressed fury, and how even gods, when wounded, become monsters. Hermes, speed can't outrun justice. Hermes, the messenger of the gods. Clever, quick, and a little mischievous. In mythology, he was the prankster, the trickster, the one who danced between realms. In God of War, he is arrogant, mocking, and dismissive of mortals. Even in his final moments, he laughs at Kratos. But Kratos silences him, slicing off his legs and taking the boots of Hermes. A grim reminder, no matter how fast you are, you can't outrun karma. We've only touched on the major gods of God of War. There's still Hera, the proud queen undone by grief. Hephaestus, the broken smith with a bleeding heart. And the Titans, ancient forces once banished, now clawing their way back from the abyss. In God of War, mythology is reborn, not as distant legend, but as raw, visceral drama, where every god bleeds, every choice matters, and even immortals must face the consequences of their past. The forgotten gods, the fallen titans, and the tragedy of an eternal war. As the major gods fall one by one beneath Kratos' blade, God of War reveals more than just the downfall of divine rulers. It exposes something deeper. An ancient feud between generations of gods and the quiet, festering pain of those long forgotten. This is where the stage belongs to the lesser gods, those without thrones, but with burdens that could crush the sky. Hera, the fated queen of Olympus. In mythology, Hera is the goddess of marriage, the wife of Zeus, proud, fierce, and feared even by other gods for her wrath. But in God of War 3, she appears as a shadow of herself, drunken, bitter, mumbling insults with no crown, no dignity, no light. When she meets Kratos, she doesn't fight. She stabs him with words, cruel, cutting, aimed to tear at the last pieces of his humanity. But Kratos, now numb to pain, doesn't flinch. Her death is swift, cold, not a war, but a final silence. The goddess of marriage dies alone. Her tragedy isn't painted in blood, it lies in being forgotten. Hephaestus, the god sacrificed by his own loyalty. Hephaestus, the crippled god of the forge, son of Hera, cast from Olympus for his appearance. In the game, he lives in exile, forging weapons for gods who never once honored him, like a servant without a name. He loved Pandora like a daughter, and Kratos, by threatening her, became his enemy. In desperation, Hephaestus tries to kill him, but pays the ultimate price. Not because he was weak, but because he chose love over power. He dies with soot-covered hands and a heart heavy with failure, like an artist collapsing beside his unfinished masterpiece. His death is quiet, but haunting, because in the war of gods, even loyalty is consumed by fire. The Titans, returning from the abyss. In God of War 2, Kratos allies himself with the Titans, colossal beings exiled to Tartarus after the Titanomachy, the great war against Zeus. They are Gaia, Kronos, Hyperion, once rulers of all creation, now relics of a forgotten age. Gaia, Mother Earth, rescues Kratos from death, but later betrays him when he no longer serves her purpose. It's a bitter truth. Even the mother of the universe, when poisoned by revenge, can lose her compassion. Kronos, father of Zeus, is slain in a brutal battle, fought atop his own enormous body. A titan who devoured his children to avoid being overthrown, only to die by the hand of the child of the child. A cycle of tragedy, repeated. The greatest tragedy isn't war, it's a forgotten purpose. The gods in God of War do not fall simply because Kratos is strong. They fall because they forgot why they existed. Zeus forgot he was meant to bring order, not domination. Athena forgot that wisdom without compassion is hollow. Hera forgot that love is stronger than jealousy. And Kratos almost forgot that before vengeance, he was a father, a warrior, a man. When gods forget their true purpose, even immortality can't save them. Because in the end, the death of a god is not the end of power. It is the end of meaning. Kratos, the survivor, the judge, and the destroyer of a mythology. Amid the chaos of God of War, one figure stands apart. Not born into divinity, not worshipped by mortals, not bound to any eternal symbol. And yet, he is the one who brings the entire Greek pantheon to its knees. His name is Kratos. From Spartan warrior to God of War. Kratos didn't begin as a god. He was a Spartan warrior, a commander forged in battle, with a blade as sharp as his blind faith in victory. When he faced certain death on the battlefield, he cried out to Ares, the god of war, begging for strength. Ares answered, and the cost was everything: his soul, his freedom, and his humanity. Under Ares' manipulation, Kratos murdered the wife he loved and the daughter he adored. Their ashes clung to his skin, seared into his flesh, a curse and a reminder. From that day forward, he became the ghost of Sparta, a living monument to guilt and vengeance. Kratos, the judge of the gods. Unlike the Olympians, born into power and privilege, Kratos saw the truth behind the golden masks. To him, the gods were not divine, they were tyrants, manipulators, abusers of their own creations. He didn't kill out of ambition. He struck down Zeus not just because Zeus was his father, but because Zeus stood for a decaying order. He fought Athena not because she was evil, but because she tried to use him as a pawn under the guise of wisdom. To Kratos, justice was never born on Mount Olympus. Justice is when the strong stop preying on the weak, and the truth no longer hides behind a divine glow. The price of freedom, the unraveling of a world. Kratos didn't just kill gods, he broke the world. When Poseidon died, the seas rose in fury. When Hades fell, the dead lost their chains. When Helios lost his head, the sun itself vanished, plunging the world into darkness. Each blade swing severed another link in the cosmic order. Kratos didn't just destroy Olympus, he destroyed mythology itself. And in the wreckage, he nearly destroyed himself. With one final act, he drove a sword through his own body to release the last ember of hope for humanity. But fate wasn't finished with him yet. Rebirth in a land of ice, a new father, a new legend. When God of War moved into Norse mythology, Kratos was no longer a vengeful god. He was a father, a man trying to bury a bloodstained past, raising Atreus, his son, his legacy, and perhaps the spark of a new destruction foretold in prophecy. Kratos became a symbol of redemption. He learned to control his fury. He learned to teach his son courage, without violence. And he learned one final, powerful truth. A god does not have to rule. A god can guide. God of War. When a game resurrects an entire mythology, God of War is more than just a game. It is a chronicle rewritten in blood, fire, and broken dreams. Every god, from Zeus to Athena, from Hera to Hephaestus, is brought to life not as distant deities, but as flawed beings, rich with emotion and conflict. They love, they hate, They fail, and they are judged, not by mountains or blades, but by the hearts of those who play. And Kratos? He is the symbol of those who have stumbled, but refuse to fall. He represents humanity itself, small, broken, imperfect, yet always capable of change, of redemption, and of rewriting their own myth.